Hello there, my name is Diego Salas, and this is my Multimodal remix project for English 1302. What I hope to do with this video is educate newly eligible and young voters, for example, recent high school graduates and/or college students. This is because this age demographic is the least likely to vote, and I hypothesize that the reason for such a low voter turnout is for the lack of education that we have over political topics. Topics such as economic systems, which is what I will be focusing on in this video. I will provide you with 3 objective pros and cons about the 2 most debated economic systems in our current political landscape, capitalism and socialism. I aim to help you determine which system you favor more, as well as giving a brief and concise explanation about what each system is in order to help you determine which one you favor more, so that hopefully you will be more likely to go out and vote in the future. First, I will start off by giving a brief description about what capitalism and socialism are and how they work. Starting with capitalism. Capitalism is an economic system in which the government plays a secondary role in the economy, where people and firms make most, if not all, of their own economic decisions and own most of the property. In other words, the means of production are almost completely privatized by the people for monetary gain. Now, socialism would be almost the exact opposite of capitalism. In a socialistic economy, the means of production would be collectively owned by all of the people. For example, employees of a company would all own equal shares of the business. This means that the value made by the company belongs to the people as a whole, instead of a group of private investors or owners. I will now start off by listing 3 pros and cons about capitalism and socialism. Starting off with capitalism. Pro number 1. There is a large incentive for innovation. Whether this innovation comes in the form of new technology or new ideas, the idea here is that revolutionary ideas will pave the way towards financial success. And that alone is incentive enough for many producers to go out of their way towards making a better product for consumers to willingly purchase. Pro number 2, capitalism incentivizes producers to be efficient. In an open and free market, firms are heavily incentivized on making consumer-desired products efficiently. This means cutting costs on production as much as possible and only creating products that consumers will buy, thus making it rare that resources will be spent on creating products and services that no one will use. Pro number 3, consumers have the luxury of choosing what to purchase. In an open market, capitalistic economy, the consumer has the benefit of being able to choose what they do and do not want to buy. This gives the consumers the power to vote with their money and decide which products and companies succeed and fail in the market. It can even be argued that economic freedom goes hand in hand with political freedom. Now moving on to the cons of capitalism. Con number 1, monopolies can arise. This becomes a problem once large firms and corporations become too large and begin to exploit the consumers with more expensive prices. Firms can then control the market to only benefit them and can be detrimental to the economy as a whole. Con number 2, producers and firms become too greedy. This is not inherently a bad thing, as this behavior is encouraged in this economic system, but it can prove to be detrimental to the general public once corporations begin to ignore public safety and regulations. Lastly, con number 3, capitalism in actual practice does not create equality equally. What I mean by this is that those who start well off have it easier in terms of creating economic success. While the principle still applies that anyone can become wealthy in a capitalistic economy, the truth is that the poor and lower class have it much harder to improve their economic situation due to their lack of resources. Now that we're done with capitalism, I'll move on to the 3 pros and cons about socialism. Pro number 1. Every citizen will have access to education and healthcare. In a socialist society, it will be common practice that every citizen will be given an equal opportunity towards receiving education and healthcare. Pro number 2, socialism in theory creates a classless society. In this economic system, everyone is monetarily equal. The gap between the rich and the poor are bridged as everyone is one and the same. Finally, pro number 3, socialism prevents monopolies from forming. This is due to the large presence and control that the government has over firms, thus limiting how influential and powerful companies can become over the economy and the market. Now moving on to the cons of socialism. Con number 1, the government needs to be extremely large for socialism to exist. This means that the government will need to have much, if not all, of the control over the economy. This reduces the overall freedoms of the people, as now they are being told what to work on, create, and buy. Socialism limits the freedom consumers have over their choice and what to purchase. Con number 2, the government will require more in taxes. The taxes in socialistic nations far exceeds those of countries who follow a capitalistic economy. This is due to the fact that the government needs much more capital to subsidize all of the amenities that they provide for their citizens. And lastly, con number 3, socialistic economies tend to be much slower and more bureaucratic. This is due to the fact that most, if not all, economic activity will have to be approved by a government agency. This process tends to be slow and tedious, and a lot less effective than an open and free market. And those are 3 pros and cons about capitalism and socialism. Hopefully you learned a thing or two and feel more inclined to vote in the future. Thanks for watching.